Everyone, welcome to Hotline Repair Team weekly meeting on Thursday, September 15th, where, as always, we got some updates for you. What's going on with our community here? We have been doing what we can with the time we have. I'm really happy to announce that with some support from new members on our team, like Jonathan Thomas, to say that we're going to be forming our board of advisors at Hot Planet Repair Team. So we're preparing a press release right now. We're describing the roles of how we're going to be setting up our board of advisors for Hot Planet Repair Team. We're excited for any of you out there who want to be a part of what we're doing. One of the big focuses of setting up our board of advisors is turning our values into processes, into structures, making sure that we're building the most accountable, inclusive governance structures for our organizations. A few reminders of what are some of those values. It's about resilience and servant leadership, making sure that we are humble, capable janitors of planet repair on our Earth that focus on building the foundations of agency, accountability, and how we organize ourselves. We want to be proactive, transparent, and support multilateral decision-making that is centered on efficient democratic processes, structures, and open communication. It's a lot of challenges to integrate these values into our organization, but we know that with the team that we already have, with the potential we have as an organization, that we can attract those great minds to work together in a roundtable conference to make sure that we're building up the Knights of the Round Planet Repair Table, that we can really act upon these values. One of them, which I think is really important, is intergenerational collaboration, making sure that across our generations and those in the future that we'll be working on behalf of the needs, values, and desires of all these generations and overcoming the challenges together. Because without the empathy and pragmatic optimism that we all require, then we will really struggle to create the systems change that's required, because we need to collectively refuse into giving in to the fashionable cynicism that risks us all and not being able to scale up planet repair. In the coming weeks, keep an eye out for our press release for the process to join the board. That's about it I have for the board updates. Does anyone else want to add anything there on where we are at so far?
Anybody that wants or want to join the board, we're going to probably start interviewing in about, 2 or 3 weeks.
Jake, I would just emphasize the need for diversity on the board.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. And thank you for mentioning that, because you're completely right. We're only going to be as effective as the diversity on our team across geographical backgrounds, race, gender, age, areas of expertise. So we want to make this a very well-rounded, diverse team. That's the real focus here, making sure that we are inclusive and accountable in who we include. So thank you, Jonathan, for that. Does anyone else have any thoughts or questions regarding the board of advisors?
Tyler, you want to formally tell everybody about the grant that we just got passed up on?
Yeah, I wanted to let everybody know that the USDA has passed us over on the first $1 billion round of their USDA Climate Smart Commodities. There's still another $2.5 billion that they're going to be figuring out. But looking at the participants that had been awarded, it looks as though these are more heavily lobbied insiders that have gotten significant funding. But regardless, we're here to be supportive of what they want to do in the climate smart commodities space. But that being said, I also think that the Department of Energy and their fossil energy carbon management and their carbon shot initiative fits better with what we're doing. We have been assigned a couple of people to have a discussion with them next week and look across all of the things that we're doing to see how we can be of service. The big plan for them was to figure out how to do it below $100 a ton, and we are significantly below that, and it is permanent sequestration, and it's very durable. From a Puro Earth standpoint, I touch on that. We're working on the life cycle assessments. The Frontier RFP was sent in, so we've got another 2 weeks before we get word back from them. But Puro is ready to go as soon as we can send off. It doesn't have to be a full LCA. It's more of a draft LCA for our pre-cork initiative with them. I sent out some of the purchasers of the pre-corks and corks from Puro, and they're like JP Morgan, Zurich Reinsurance. It was very, very large purchases. So it's a good sign to see. It's not like small mom and pop purchases, but large institutional purchases that are putting their money where their mouth is when it comes to carbon credits, at least for corks. The pricing right now, I think, is about $144 per ton for the corks. The pre-corks may be a little less, but some of them I'm seeing priced at even higher and much higher. So we'll see how that reception goes. I'd like to pass it off over to Alan because HPRT got some really, really nice virtual billboard space on our zero fill Recyclotron.
It's in the background of my screen here, but we finally decided to give people some sneak peeks on some of the equipment we're developing with our German partners over at Carbotura. This is the technologies that we've licensed into HPRT. Anything that we touch, we're going to make sure that every person has the Hot Planet Repair Team logos on it.
Beautiful. Good job.
The one behind Alan is that recycles 100 tons a day with zero waste and negative emissions.
This is the deck that we have for Carbotura, the letter from Alan on what's going to be going on. Alan, I don't know if you want to lead this talk at all real quick as we go through it.
These are our corporate first principles. All this stuff has to actually work as a business, so you got to make money. There's two of them and a combination of them together, one for recycling municipal solid waste and the other for doing the biofactories. They all use the Recyclotron on the back end. We've now got that filed with the trademark office. Hopefully it'll get approved. There's a picture of it. This is 100 ton per day again. Over on the far left in the middle between those containers, those are all the reactors there right in the middle. It's all self-powered. There's a flyby.
Alan, are those all standard shipping containers, the ones that are enclosed?
Absolutely. Everything is packaged as a standard shipping container, including the open ones are ISO skids.
Got it.
Yeah, we want to be able to land and be up and running within days, if not weeks. So everything's prepackaged. It also gets around a lot of permitting issues. This is the start of the mass balance and energy diagram. And you can see on this one, we're taking in MSW, going into multi-phase microwave reactors, and that puts out some char, some fuels, silica, some other things come out of it. And we put the fuel into the gas turbine generators. The flue gas that comes out typically is pretty nasty stuff. It's NOx and carbon monoxide and a lot of CO2. We then go into the microwave plasma reactor, number 3. That actually runs at about 7,000 degrees in a plasma that breaks open those molecules, breaks their bonds, and we end up with a lot of oxygen, a lot of nitrogen, and a lot of solid carbon. The solid carbon's at the atomic level, so we have to wash it so it coagulates at the molecular level together. But we take the oxygen and we push it right back into the gas turbine generators, providing an enriched environment. We believe we'll get to a point where we can actually say there is zero emissions of any gas coming out of this. We probably are going to be venting off nitrogen. That'll probably be the only thing we have to actually vent off.
Amazing.
This is some of the outputs. And this is where technically we're going to have to get very engineering and process oriented because there's lots of things we can do with this stuff once we break it down.
CB stands for carbon black.
Thank you, Jake.
Yeah, thank you all. Any other updates regarding technology for untrashing or grants?
I have a quick question. Tyler, you mentioned that these other opportunities have been lobbied heavily. Do we need a lobbyist?
That's a really good question. Personally, I've always tried to stay away from lobbying and just go in and actually talk to the politicians directly without having the lobby have to go in and sign up as a lobbyist. I have hired lobbyists on a couple of occasions. In today's world, you might have to do it.
Yeah, in today's world.
There's another way to do that without lobbyists, and it's to have a partner with contacts in the different departments, say. I've spoken with Tyler a little bit about this, and not to be too cryptic, maybe more to come, but lobbyists want the retainer. If you have somebody with the contacts, it's maybe better than having a lobbyist and certainly less expensive out of the pocket retainer payment. That's an idea that we can talk about later.
As a nonprofit, we shouldn't have to do lobbying. I'd have to go look at the federal acquisition, the FAR rules. We shouldn't have to do any lobbying at all. When you see the company names like ADM and Costco as award winners, you know they lobbied.
Yeah, I would not in favor of lobbying per se, or lobbying at all. I'm thinking more, especially in the government, it's just useful to know the people who make the decisions. That's a matter of having a broader network.
Yeah, and I would say
Possible.
along with that, when you get into lobbying, I mean, the reality is that you can pay a lobbyist, but a place like Costco or a large farming association is going to have automatically way more access to those officials than you will have, regardless of whether you pay a lobbyist. That's just the way the government works. Certain people call up and they get a meeting, and the rest of us don't have so much luck. It's almost like I don't know how much value there would be in it, just because the weight behind those organizations that you're up against, we don't have that kind of weight.
Right. It would have been nice if we got some sort of recommendation letter, now that I think about it, from the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. That probably would have been a nice added touch to get the clout a little further along. And it's still a possibility, but I'm just saying that we did have a lot of engagement with them out of the gate, but we didn't think it would be necessary. And honestly, I wasn't even thinking about it when we were doing the grant application. So future reference, I think that might be good.
Absolutely.
Again, as a nonprofit, I would hope that we don't have to resort to that.
Yeah.
Just a suggestion. I think that a group like RMI with worldwide credibility, just a strategic alliance, and the suggestion that was made was go through other partners, right, that have these relationships. So if we can build a relationship with RMI, or who's dealing with Shell and Exxon and yada, 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 maybe there's something there that would allow us to utilize their credibility.
That's a very astute thing we ought to do. I agree with you, John.
We'll be climbing Vale next weekend.
We'll use Tyler as a sacrifice.
Yeah. I'll be the sacrifice at the top of the mountain.
You better start hydrating now.
Mountain dummy.
Yeah.
Rich and Allison, what are the big things we got to get done in the next 2 or 3 weeks?
So next week, we should hear from Frontier if we made it to the next round. If we did, their full application is due at the beginning of October. That does not give us a lot of time, so we'd have to have that done and in. Early next week was my understanding. They should let us know. And then it's getting the Puro done. But once we get the life cycle assessment done, then we can go in and start filling in these other applications, such as Puro. The Puro application is actually an ISO 14040 life cycle assessment, which is actually really useful because that's kind of an international standard. And once that's done, that can be used anywhere as a life cycle assessment. I kind of just did a really quick search in terms of getting certified. So like once we were up and running, how we would get certified to the ISO 14040. So it looks like most of the big testing, inspection, and certification companies are able to come in and certify you to that. Once that's done, that can be used anywhere.
Yeah. And then Puro has third-party assessors that once we get that in, they have third-party groups that we can pay to validate, but that's not necessary for the pre-corks.
No, but it's once you've done it, then you have basically the groundwork done to get your ISO certification, which is helpful.
Yeah, that's great.
All right. Anybody else have anything else?
Yeah, unless anyone else has anything regarding grants or questions, then we'll move on to some of the local work that Upland Repair Team has been doing in Amsterdam. This is our webpage, and we can create these for different places around the world, these local teams. So this is the Upland Repair Team Amsterdam. I've been networking with some pretty great people in the Netherlands, for example, in Europe, because of what's going on with Ukraine and Russia and energy crisis. A lot of countries are now having a really big sit down with some of their more important players around climate action and designing infrastructure changes that are needed. So I sat down in a barn with 60 to 70 people in the Netherlands and around one of these meetings where everyone gets to show their solutions and why that should be a big part of the vision and strategy of the country that is already 6 feet underwater. And how does it make sure that it can stand the Arctic melting, another probably 6 feet of water in the coming decades. I got to present a few presentations after the previous prime minister of the Netherlands, who served during the time of George Bush, present a bit on Planet Repair Team and what we'll be doing, because a lot of people there are talking about the technologies, other infrastructure changes that you need for circularity, for example. And our Plant Repair Team, we should be helping out places around the world, securing the tech that they need to untrash their local ecosystems. That was well received. I've been helping this group organize Amsterdam Climate Weeks. And not just having 1 week, but turning that into a whole long-term strategy and vision that needs to be achieved across many weeks. Having 52 Amsterdam Climate Weeks, say, over 4 years. So having one a month. That's the plan that we're working for. It just started this week. It started off with Noam Chomsky presenting on the urgency that needs to occur with Planet Repair. We had John D. Lewis speak, who's going to be an ally and partner of Planet Repair team, because he's a global legend on growing eco-restoration camps, where you turn a degraded landscape, you take a community to that degraded landscape and completely restore it, using really brilliant forms of ancient trees and local vegetation that is needed in a really biodiverse oasis, let's call it. I've been trying to figure out is that this week that you have here, you have the social and the cultural activation, but how do you turn that engagement into sustained committed actions, whether it's an individual, a community, or an organization like a business in Amsterdam? I'm now sitting down with them and going to create an Amsterdam and regional connectory, starting to gather the data points that we need across the connecting aspects that we'll be doing at Hot Planet Repair Team. And just a quick reminder to those that aren't familiar, these are our major initiatives. We need to be growing out the connectory in different places. So Amsterdam is hopefully going to be one of them, where I get to get a lot of people together. How do you get all of these individuals, communities, organizations acting in 4 different areas of planet repair? One being eco-restoration, another being regenerative food systems. So I'm working with regenerative farmers in the local area, built environment, and then circularity. So a Hot Planet Repair Team with this technology, if you get enough support and interest, you could hopefully get a demo facility in Amsterdam. So having some interesting conversations there. A big part of the problem that we have globally and locally is to make sure that you take that engagement into the action. So there are 4 different areas. Create action lists. What can you do as an individual? What can you do as a community? What can you do as a business to contribute to those areas? So I was having an interesting conversation with the head of sustainability at ABN AMRO, one of the biggest banks in the Netherlands, about their interest is circularity, especially within the Amsterdam context. Maybe that these kind of relationships could turn into resources flowing into facilities that are needed for projects in these areas. I just wanted to share a bit about what's going on there. We're hoping that around the world we can find these models that can be replicated, and there will be failures, just like any really good effort that is ambitious fails and learns from its successes and grows into a better version of itself. But I'm excited to see what we'll be producing there. One last thing I wanted to share is that we've been working on other partnerships in the Planet Repair Team, especially this one campaign that we've been designing a bit for months. It's going to be balancing eco-restoration with green buildings or infrastructure. We're going to be focusing likely that campaign project within the context of Latin America. I won't say where exactly right now. We're excited to see with some great partners like Open Future Coalition and some others what could occur with these projects that can give us better routes for funding. In the philanthropic world of sustainability, a lot of people aren't interested in donating towards the core needs of an organization or communication campaigns. People are really looking for projects that are about solutions and action. And so that's what we want to be designing and creating here. Thank you all for listening in on some of these updates here.
That's great work, Jake. Very good.
It's great news. Congratulations.
Thanks, everyone.
Awesome, Jake. Great job.
Well, does anyone have any other thoughts they'd like to share, opportunities?
May I ask, how long was your speech after the Prime Minister, was it? How long
short,
was your
it was 5 minutes.
Were you comfortable in front of a bunch of people?
Yeah, it's all good, but it was still nerve-wracking, of course. And I'm excited. Next week, actually, I'll be at New York Climate Week. I'm in New York City right now, and Jonathan Thomas, John Pagley, some of us are going to get together from Hot Planet Repair Team, meet in person, and see how we can maybe through all that networking and events find different partnerships or fundraising opportunities. It's going to be an interesting week next week in New York.
Oh, good luck.
Great.
In Florida, Jake.
I'll be in Florida in a few weeks. That's also another thing that we need to figure out as an organization. How are we going to go about our local fundraising and expanding our strategy on Florida? I think it's going to make a lot of sense. So we're really excited that we got new members on the team like Jonathan and others who can help expand our progress here.
Well, I think, is that anybody else? Well, great seeing everybody. And I'm really excited about some of the progress. A little setback with the USDA, but I think it's temporary and it only sharpens our saw to be more effective and get work done. We'll have some more updates after our meeting with the DOE and see where alliances can be had. A lot of things on the table here. So congratulations, everybody. We're starting to move things ahead. Look forward to sharing more updates in the coming weeks and days.
The only thing I have to say is that I've been looking at my thermometer outside, and all the work we've done has not even dented it to go down 1 degree yet. So we got a lot
Come
of work.
on.
A lot of work. Still a lot of
We
work.
need more help.
All right, guys. Take
Thanks,
care.
everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Hey, take care.
Have a good day.
Peace.